Hi everybody, I'm Jessica Raleigh and I'm very excited to be here with two of my very awesome colleagues who I get to work with very frequently. I'm here with Sarah Thomas and Brandon Petersen, and tonight we're going to talk to you a little bit about proposing a session for ISTE 2016. So ISTE is going to be in Denver in June on the 26th through the 29th, and proposals are due in a week and a half on September 30th, which that just kind of snuck up on us really quickly. But we're just going to share some tips and tricks and answer some questions that we've been having. If you are watching live and you would like to submit a question, you can do so with the Q&A app. So please pop those questions in here and we'll be taking a look and trying to answer all of those as well. And we hope that you will enjoy the resources that we've put into the Hangout tonight also, and that those will be really helpful for you. So without further ado, we're going to jump right in. And I would first just like to start. Sarah, can you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your current role and also your experience with ISTE?
Absolutely. Hey, thanks so much for having me. My name is Sarah Thomas, and I am a newly changed high school technology education teacher in Prince George's County in Maryland. And I'm coming from a K-8 school where I was for 7 years. So now this is my first year teaching technology, and I'm loving it. My experience with ISTE, I've been to 2 ISTEs, and the first one I presented a workshop on gamification with Shelley Terrell. And the second one, I just kind of ran around like a crazy person and did a bunch of different things in Philly. So it was really cool.
Awesome. Brandon, how about you?
Sure. So my name is Brandon Petersen. I just moved to Denver Public Schools from Douglas County. So I am now I work with Jessica like almost every day, and it's so much fun. So I'm a field support specialist for personalized professional learning. And my experience with ISTE is that I actually was the moderator chair for ISTE Live. So a lot of you might not know about ISTE Live. It's like one of the cool, best-kept secrets of ISTE. It's a virtual conference, and so last year we actually were the entire conference. We got to have moderators like Jessica, and they did Q&A sessions with all of the presenters after they did their hour-long presentation, which was also streamed out to like 500 plus global teachers that couldn't actually attend Philly. So that was a lot of fun. I've done ISTE Live a few times before that and also presented. So I'm super excited for this year because it's in Denver where we are. So
Yes. And I am Jessica Raleigh. I work in personalized professional learning. I'm a program manager, and one of the things that I'm really excited about, especially with this Hangout too, is to be able to share, because we are hosting in Denver, I really would love to see a lot of teachers and school leaders and students from Colorado being able to come. I think that was something that I loved so much about Philly last year and then Atlanta the year before. So those are my 2 ISTE conferences that I've gone to. The first year I went to Atlanta, I just was a sort of an observer, just was trying to take it all in and see what everything was all about. It is a bit overwhelming if it's going to be your first ISTE. There are about 18,000 plus people who attend, but it's also really exciting because you get to connect with so many different people from around the world. But then last year I put in a couple of proposals and I was able to present a couple of sessions, and then, like Brandon said, to be able to help with the ISTE Live moderating, which was it was addicting. I'm a huge fan of ISTE Live now. I really loved it. So we're excited to be here and talk to you guys a little bit about how to put in these proposals for ISTE. I know when I was doing it last year, I have presented at a lot of other conferences in years past, but putting in a proposal for ISTE felt like a bit of a different thing, and I was really nervous about it actually. So I wanted to share some of the things that we've all learned along the way. One of the first things that I want to hit on though is, what is the best thing about attending ISTE, and why should people even consider putting in a proposal? So what do you guys think? Sarah, you want to take that one first?
Sure, absolutely. For me, the best thing about ISTE is definitely the connections that you make with people. Like, you've been chatting with people, Google Hangouting with people, Voxing with people, and then at ISTE you actually get to hang out with them and have those face-to-face interactions that we don't get to do a lot of the time. So that's my favorite part. And why should you consider submitting a proposal? My answer to that would be that we all have something that we can share. We all have something that we do very, very well. We're all experts in something. So we benefit when we share that knowledge with each other, and, hear about each other's successes and challenges and things of that nature. So for that reason, I think that educators should continue to share out what they do.
Yes, absolutely. Brandon, what are you thinking?
I think I love ISTE because it's our turn to learn, and we get to learn best from so many other amazing people. So just like Sarah totally nailed it. There's even just times when you're not in sessions, when you're at a Cuban restaurant with all of your colleagues from around the globe, not even just in the U.S., which is such a cool thing. You all get to experience culture and each other and learn from each other. And it's a lot of times those moments for me that are even more powerful, because you just learn those things. You're like, oh my gosh, what is that on your phone? And how does that work? And tell me about it. And then you start geeking out because, of course, as teachers, we always say, okay, we're not going to talk about work, but then we do. And so that's like the best part. So ISTE is just a great time to network. It's that one time of the year I look forward to the most because we all get to come together. It's kind of like tech teacher Christmas, or just teacher Christmas in a way, because we just get to learn from each other. And you're right, Sarah, we all have so much to share, even if you don't get into a proposal or a presentation, that it's just fun. I learned so much and walk away with a whole toolkit for the whole year. So.
Awesome. So Brandon, being that ISTE is going to be in our hometown, I know there's a lot of people in our state who haven't attended ISTE before, and so they're kind of thinking, well, maybe I'll just do like what Jessica did and attend that first year, and then I'll just kind of lurk. And I always say lurking is learning. So, I totally am down with lurking. But why should people take that extra little leap in the next week and a half and rush to get those proposals in and get that submitted, Brandon? What's the big push that you would want to share with people for that?
The big push for actually doing it, even if it's your first time?
Yeah. Why should they submit a proposal?
Instead of
just attending.
I really loved how Sarah, just with the story theme, I love always saying that to teachers, even, like when you're doing your evaluations, I'm like, tell your story. Like, go deeper than just, like, I don't want to hear just about, like, you teach. I want to hear your whole story. I want to hear your kid's story. Like, there's so much going on right now and so many people trying so many different things that really, like, in Philly, we really saw so much come together. And it opened my eyes because I thought, oh, for sure, we're just in a bubble. Nobody else is doing this. And nobody else is trying this, and you know what? Everybody's trying all of these different things and really doing this. And I think, especially this year, it's going to be so critical for us to hear from everyone on what works, what doesn't work, what do kids believe works, and what are their stories, what are their passions, and how do we just empower each other to not be afraid, and that we're all in this together, and that we all just have something absolutely to share. And even if you've never presented in front of people before, ISTE is the best place to do it. They're the best audience ever. They are not rude, crazy people. They're all there to learn, so they're just ready to eat up your stories and all of your ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Brenda's saying. And you said something that really just kind of made my ears perk up about how educators tell their stories and tell what works and what doesn't work. And this is just so different than a lot of times what we get. A lot of times we get mandates from people who may not be involved with education about what they think is right. But when you get to hear from people who are actually doing it, educators, people, coaches, administrators, people involved with schools, then it's definitely a different narrative, and it's just so empowering.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you guys really just nailed it with it's important for us to share. So many times we have people telling us what our stories are, and people ask me the same thing about Twitter. Like, why should I go on Twitter? I'm kind of afraid. I don't really want to put all of this out there. I think it's a similar answer that I would give people about why they should put in a proposal for ISTE. Why not, first of all? There's no harm in going through the process. Just by going through that process of thinking about what I would share and being able to complete that proposal, I learned so much about my practice and about myself, and it was a really great opportunity for me to grow. But it's also such a great opportunity to tell your own story, and I kind of want to jump from that into sort of thinking about our kids' stories as well. And so I would love to hear Can kids participate? Can students be part of ISTE? And if so, what can that look like? Brandon, what are you thinking?
Of course, kids can participate. In fact, I think we all kind of wish kids participated even more. The exciting thing kind of that we saw this year is kids were actually attending sessions as learners, like just to see what it was about. And that's, I think a lot of times we automatically go to, like, my kids just need to share their story and they just need to present. But there's actually this level of them learning from other teachers, which is so crazy cool. And then I think the presenting part is powerful because we're always looking for that authentic audience. How do we get kids to speak to a larger audience? Well, I don't know a larger audience than like a global field of educators who really will listen to kids and be really empowered by what kids have to truly say, because kids are genuine, they're innocent still. They really, the ones that you usually bring to these are like, the cream of the crop. They're excited to do these things. They're nervous as well, but I would love to see a heightened level of a kid voice at ISTE. And I've seen it in little droves here and there, and I see it a lot at poster sessions. And I think there would be a power to going beyond the poster sessions and what can they really sit and bring to the table. I think one of our favorite sessions this year was when an admin brought a few of their kids, and one of the students had autism, and you would never have known. And so it's giving them that ability as well to, conquer their fears. And if they really have social anxiety, it gives them the chance. And us as teachers, we do sometimes too. We're like, well, we're okay with 30 kids, but teachers, no way. And so I really think that it's just that student voice is going to give it all that more authenticity that we're looking for and craving.
I totally agree. And I think, last year, this past summer when we were in Philadelphia, I saw more students than I did in Atlanta, and it was so exciting. And I think the thing that I kept noticing is that wherever you were, when you would be talking to other teachers, they would be saying, oh, did you see those kids from this school? And did you hear them talking about this thing? I had the great pleasure a few years ago when I was still teaching to have a Chromebook session with my fourth graders, and they actually presented to the teachers and taught the teachers about Chromebooks. We had been piloting them that year, and so they were some of the first kids in our district to have Chromebooks and to be able to share what that was all about. And it was absolutely a career-changing experience for me as an educator to see my students and the things that they were talking about, and they nailed it. I mean, we obviously prepped and we talked a lot about what this meant and how we would do that, but just that process and the community that we built because of that experience, and then just being able to stand back and hear them just answer all these teachers' questions. And it was so much better than me standing in front of the teachers and telling them why they should have Chromebooks. My kids told them why they needed Chromebooks and how to use them and what to do with them. And I think that that's something that teachers want more of. We want to hear from students, and we want to be able to ask students. It's great to ask a teacher, how did you implement that? What did it look like? But to be able to look at the kids and say, okay, what worked? What were some of the challenges? I mean, those learnings that we can get from the kids are huge. Sarah, anything else you want to add about the student perspective?
I agree with what both of y'all were saying. Like, it's just great to have that because, that's a voice that it has historically been overlooked, and now we're starting to hear it. So definitely, it's great having the student perspective.
I agree. So, Sarah, I'm going to jump into the next question, and I'm wondering if you can share with people what kind of topics make really great session proposals.
I would say that's a tough one. I would say that there's a case for almost anything educational. But I guess if you look at ISTE, then the fact that technology is such a major component of it, then that would definitely be something that would inform the type of session that would be offered. And I mean, it doesn't have to be like something super technological. Like, a lot of people tend to shy away. They say, oh, I'm not that techie. But I mean, really, any kind of technology that you implement in your classroom that you can use, or in your school or in your district or whatever, that has made a change for your students, then that would be probably a good topic.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And another thing that I want to point out to people as a resource is the session guide, and there's actually a guide that specifically says what kinds of topics they're looking for. So I would absolutely recommend, if you're thinking of putting in a proposal, I was just looking at it the other day again, they've done a great job of really putting some great information together this year. Last year it was a little bit hard to find information about putting in a proposal and to get some resources, but ISTE has put together a really clean, wonderful website right now that has a lot of that information, and a few different places it talks about the different kinds of proposals that they're looking for and what topics are really popular, and the things that they saw the most this last year at the conference that people were wanting. So definitely take a look at that as well. Brandon, anything else you would add in terms of topics?
I've learned a lot over the past year that teachers are looking for the practical piece. I loved how Sarah kind of mentioned people tend to be a little weary and afraid because they don't realize how amazing and savvy they really are. And so the more practical and enjoyable and easy, for lack of a better word, they can just implement this into the classroom, the more empowering and inspiring that's going to be for your participants. They're not going to go into a session that's like, looking at all of these different Common Core standards and like they might, because the Common Core is pretty hot topic, but if you really ramble off into it, it's going to really discourage your audience, whereas we always look for, give it a little bit of a creative title so that you lure people in. Like a lot of people I know are looking for, so I get Google, now what? Which is actually, I think, a session Jessica named once. And I love that because I think a lot of us are in that mode. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go there. I'm not going to get the basics, but I'm not going to get super hard because this isn't like Google for experts. And so think about how, especially in your proposal, highlight those key strategies that you're going to ensure they walk away and are able to do. Like they could do it that night, like in the hotel room. And that's the thing that I think really drives people to your sessions and are what are really hot. So I've heard from a lot of people they want the practical piece.
Definitely. So I'm going to piggyback on that and talk about some tips and tricks that you guys have been kind of alluding to. So one of them that I just heard is have a really catchy session title. That absolutely is important. Think about putting in the proposal and what the ISTE committee is going to look like. So to be they have 500-ish proposals that they're looking through. It's a lot of material for them to look at and to be able to accept by mid-December and let people know whether they're going to be able to present or not. And so they actually have small committees for all of the different session types, and then within that those committees are looking at the different proposals, and then they're choosing based on the number of proposals that they're looking for in each of those categories. That's how they're sort of choosing. So think about that, but also think about when you're actually presenting, how are you going to get people to walk through the door of your session? Because there is a huge program, and there are, at any one time, there are a lot of different sessions going on. So get that catchy title in there, and then like Brandon said, be really specific and detailed in your description and your outcomes. Again, ISTE does a great job in their proposal of asking for what are your outcomes. If this is going to be interactive, how will it be interactive? Think about what kind of PD you want. That's something that I think is really beneficial. Think of all the things that you don't like about really bad PD. Think about all the things you love about really great PD, and then try to stay over on that side and really think about making it interactive, really bringing the voices of the room to the table and honoring different entry points and different people's perspectives, and really just making it a great learning opportunity for everyone in the room. I think it's those kinds of sessions that people really, really walk away feeling great about. And then my last tip that I would share would be try not to do too much. So less really is more, and it can be hard. I know this is something that I constantly struggle with in my sessions because I just want to help them, and I want to help everybody with all of the things, but you have to really be specific. So think about a specific audience. Think about a specific outcome. Like Brandon said, what are the 1, 2, or 3 things that when people walk out the door, they could do it right away, and then everything else is just gravy. That's just the extra awesome stuff that you get to share with people. But if you keep that focus pretty narrow, it will help you to facilitate a really great session. So, in your session description, don't put everything and the kitchen sink. Just keep it really focused, and know that that's just the start of the conversation. Like, that's one of the things that's beautiful about ISTE, is you're starting the conversation there, but I'm still having conversations with people on Twitter and, like Sarah said, on Google Hangouts about sessions that we attended back in June. So don't feel like you have to fit everything all in an hour or 2-hour sessions. What other tips and tricks do you guys have? Sarah, what ones are you thinking about?
All right, so this one is kind of more so of a trick than a tip, but one of my friends last year recommended submitting the same session under different formats. So like maybe like submitting it under a poster as well as a concurrent session, but like the same type of session. Also, another thing is that I heard a rumor, I don't know if it's true or not, that they tend to like panels with, well, not panels, but they tend to like sessions with multiple people. So that might be another good thing to keep in mind. Now, I don't know if there's any validity to that, but that's just what I heard through the grapevine, so I'm just passing it along. So I guess that those would be mine.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely, think about if there are any co-presenters who can help you. Not only will you have a great person to collaborate with as you're writing your session, but you'll also have somebody who can help facilitating, and if nothing else, it's just nice to have extra hands in the room and extra people to really help with what's going on. Brandon, what are some of your tips and tricks?
I actually loved Sarah's first one, which was to check as many as possible and do it multiple times. I don't know if you have to put it in each time, but one of my friends, Beth Mossholder, has mentioned that to me several times. And honestly, I will tell you, actually, doing a poster session, your first ISTE, might be the best thing you ever do, because those are the super not as intimidating sessions, as instead of being up on top of a stage with all the lights and you've got 300 people in front of you.
Don't scare them away, Brandon.
But if it's your first time, if you went to ISTE in Philly, you're ready for the big stage. But I love the poster idea as well. But yeah, definitely check as many as you can. I definitely think keeping it relevant is also a big thing. What are the hot topics, which will then segue into our next question, I believe. What are the things that are really sticking on people's minds right now that you think we really need, as of today? So that would be all I could definitely recommend.
Awesome. And then the other thing that I think that also reminds me of, Brandon, is just the importance of making it fit for yourself. I know sometimes we try so hard and we just sort of are like, oh, well, I'm just going to try to fit into all of the different boxes. And the other thing I would say to people is just think about who you are and think about what it is that you want to share. Like we were saying, what is your story? And think about the format that's going to work best for you telling your story. So one of the resources that we actually have shared tonight is the different session types, and it kind of breaks down what those are. There's another one that I'm really excited about this year. They are formerly called Birds of a Feather. They're actually going to be unconference sessions this year.
Wow.
So I'm really excited about those. The Ignite sessions are amazing. If you've ever seen an Ignite session, you know that it's really rapid fire. Your slides are moving really quickly. That's the one that scares me the most. And I have sort of a bucket list item that someday I'm going to put in an Ignite on the big stage, but I don't know if it's going to be this year. But I think that what that tells me is that we actually each have different preferences. Sarah was just mentioning in the chat, she said poster sessions scare me the most. And so I think, and Sarah actually has done some amazing Ignite sessions before. So I think that it's a matter of just finding out who you are and figuring out which place you feel as a good starting point for you, and just go there, and then nudge yourself a little bit out of that comfort zone and try something new. But I think it's really about thinking about what your story is and what you have to share, and like we've been saying, what your story of your kiddos is too, and helping them to share that story. So we just have a couple more questions here before we wrap up. The next thing that I want to just kind of touch upon is, what do you guys think about buzzwords in your proposals? Should you have them? How many? How many is too many? What do you guys think? Brandon, buzzwords, yay or nay?
I think it depends on the word. If you put in the word makerspace, totally a hot topic right now. It's probably I would include something like that. If I'm talking about innovation, probably not so much, because that's just so broad and big. I would really define in that wheelhouse what you're trying to focus on as far as innovating. Are you having your students code? that's probably going to get you a little bit further down the road. So I'm looking more at hot topics instead of like the actual buzzwords. Instead of you saying like, well, it's rigorous and it's evaluative and it's collaborative. Like, I think we all kind of live in that world and get that we really are trying to know, like, what are you really focused on? What is that big, like, just that topic you're craving to share out and that people are really just wanting to continue to devour? And so I would really be looking at more of that than buzzwords. So I'd go with a hot topic more so than a buzzword, where I'm going to say, like, yep, I'm going to tell you how to transform your space. But instead of saying transform your space, like, you might say, these are practical ways that you can really help your students to make their learning, fun, or make their learning environment, so much more exciting. I think you're actually going to lure people in who do that than just saying, like, well, I'm going to make every teacher have a mind shift in an hour. And it's like, wait, what? Like, whereas you might say, like, oh, let's take that first step and, like, really analyze it for, like, this is how I was able to change my thinking as a professional.
Awesome. Sarah, buzzwords, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd go with Brandon on this one. I think that he really knocked it out of the park with that answer. It really depends, like he said. So yeah,
Put them in there just to put them in there.
No, I was gonna say kind of like the way I feel about technology in general. It has to have some kind of purpose to it. It can't just be done just for the sake of doing it. You have to have a reason for it. So if you're using a buzzword in a way that makes sense, then sure. But if it's just being thrown out there like, yeah, blah blah blah, woo, then no.
Yeah, and I would say think about your proposal as sort of a promise to ISTE and especially to your attendees. So when you're writing your session, there is some information that you can actually change if it gets accepted, that you can tweak a little bit. But some of that stuff, once you submit that proposal, it's locked in there. And so think about that as, that's your agreement with your audience that, hey, if you show up to my session, this is what you're getting. And so be thoughtful about that and make sure that you're actually following through. It's really hard to know exactly what you're going to be doing step by step in September for something that's happening next June. So you can leave some open space in there for as your thinking evolves and grows over this year, that you'll be able to weave that in there. But just also know that there are some things that people are going to show up because you said that you were going to cover that. So make sure when you're actually planning your facilitation that you look back at your proposal and check on those things. The other things I was thinking about with buzzwords, they have different meanings in different places. So think about the words that you're using, and if it's a word that is not really clearly defined outside of your district or your state, you might want to think of something else. So, kind of bring it down to the not lowest common denominator, but make sure that people are going to understand what it is you're actually going to be talking about. Even things like personalized learning mean very different things in different districts. And this is an international conference, so you also have people from other countries who are going to attend your sessions. So you don't want to be throwing out, just a bunch of words. Also, try to keep the acronyms to a minimum in your proposal, because acronyms especially are, very different in different places. So, just ELA in our district means English Language Acquisition, whereas ELA for somebody else means, literacy. So just be kind of thinking about that, if you're not talking about English Language Arts and you're talking about English Language Acquisition, just say it. Just put it out there. And then also just talk to people the way that you would want to be talked to. So think about if you were reading that session description, what would you want it to say? Kind of just put yourself in those shoes. So that's going to be a good thing.
And another tip I would really like, and I guess actually this is like a plea, is that like you hold yourself accountable to that when you get to ISTE. We actually got some really big feedback that, like, for instance, somebody went in a session and it was supposed to be about how to really change up like library practice, like, practice in the library. And I think they mentioned library once in the whole entire presentation. Like, so like you got this whole room of people to come and they were really excited about what you did. So like, really, I love that you said that, Jessica, about them really thinking about what are your non-negotiables, what are you going to hold yourself to, and like, what would you go to? Think about like what would lure you, and maybe have 5 other colleagues in your building look at your proposal really quick before you send it off to be like, does this make sense to you? Would you go to a session like this if you read this?
Yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice just to, get more eyes on your session. One of the things I do want to point out is that all of us here, we love connecting with people and we love sharing. And so if you have a question or you think of something later as you're writing your proposal, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And also just to post it online, to share it with the people in your building, just get some extra feedback on it because I think that will really help you kind of clarify your proposal. The other thing that I think is really helpful is just to kind of think about what it is that that you're really trying to accomplish and make sure that that's in your proposal as well. So yeah, there's definitely there's a lot of opportunities at ISTE to do a lot of learning, but people do get frustrated if they don't get what it said in the session guide. So be sure that you're hitting on that. So we had actually, I was talking to someone on Twitter just a little while ago, and one of the things she said was, oh my gosh, I'm having such a hard time picking what kind of format I would even choose to put my proposal into. So one of the things that I do want to remind people is to look at those acceptance rates, so you can actually see all of the 2015 acceptance rates. So I'm looking at them right now. We have the link in there as well. But for 2015, the BYOD, so the Bring Your Own Device sessions, there were 309 submitted, 119 accepted, and it tells you that's an acceptance rate of 39%. So you can go through each of the session formats and you can actually see what percentage usually get accepted. So you can see that poster sessions have the highest acceptance rates. Workshops are also very popular and get really great acceptance rates. So you can kind of just look through that and see what's going to make the most sense for your format as well. Any other tips or things you guys would want to share about picking a session format?
I guess I'll just reiterate what you were saying before. Think about your personality type and think about what you might be most comfortable doing. But of course, don't be afraid to step outside of that comfort zone every now and then. Yep. Yeah, like that would definitely be my #1 tip for that.
Awesome. So I do want to make sure that we keep this pretty short. I know we have a lot of people who are going to be watching this after the fact, and so we want to keep the video nice and concise. But I do want to just kind of remind people that the website that we put together, ppl.dpsk12.org/ISTE 2016. It has a lot of the stuff we've been talking about tonight. It has all of those links and resources that we also shared in the Hangout. And then there's also some other blog posts and some things that are really going to help you. Keep in mind that you can start a proposal at any time, and you can always click save and come back to it. So that's something that I would definitely recommend. Go ahead in there, sign up for an account, start poking around and seeing what questions it's going to ask you. The way that I do it is I actually create a Google Doc, and I just pull out all of the questions that I have to answer, all the different pieces that I'm going to have to enter in the proposal form. I actually just pull those out into a Google Doc and I start working on my stuff in there, because that way I can easily share it with other people and get comments on it and kind of work in that collaborative space, and then when I'm really ready, I can pop it back into the form. But just know that you can always hit save on the form, come back to it. You do have to get those proposals in by midnight on September 30th. So start working on them. If you are in the Denver metro area, we're actually going to have a face-to-face meetup next Friday night. So hopefully all of you can come. That's also on the PPL website if you would like to join us. And then we're also going to do a virtual one. So if you're outside of Denver or you just can't come next Friday, we're going to be doing one next Saturday morning. We'll have just an hour-long hangout, and we'll just do a meetup. People can ask questions, pop in and out, work on their session proposals. So we'll just kind of have a low-key time to work virtually and help each other with our proposals. But absolutely want to say, get a proposal in there. It's a really great experience. I think that you'll really, really enjoy it. And don't hesitate to ask questions and look through those resources, because I think that'll be a big help as well. Brandon, last thought. What's on your mind? What do you want to tell people about proposing for ISTE?
To just not be afraid and do it. I think so many of us just sit there and be like, oh, I'm going to do it. This is the year I'm going to do it. And then you don't do it. Me being guilty as well. And now I have two people like, oh my gosh, will you propose a session with me? So yes, definitely do it, but also be a little practical that it is a little time consuming. It takes a little bit of time because you really want to process, and it's not time consuming for the fact of just eating your time, but you need to really process and be thoughtful about that process. And so just allocate yourself enough time. Definitely do it in pairs. It's so much more fun when you do it with someone else. So
Yeah, I really like that tip of, start it now, just go in there this weekend and start
Yep.
drafting something and then keep coming back to it. Don't wait until the night before. Yeah, that's a little harder.
Yep.
Sarah, what do you want to tell people? Last thoughts.
I guess my last thought would be just do it. Be like Nike, just do it. We need your voice. We need to hear those stories that we have not yet heard. And so I highly urge anybody who's watching to just go ahead, submit that, and share your story. We need to hear your voices in the field.
Yeah, and I think that that's a great segue into my last thought, which is, absolutely, I love ISTE. I think it's a great amalgam of people, but one of the things that I did notice last year and that I've been really kind of stuck on this idea of we need all of the voices in the room. And while ISTE is a great representation of a lot of the voices, I still know there are a lot of voices missing. And so, I don't see when I didn't have any technology in my classroom and I was just sort of like drowning and trying to figure out what my next minute was going to look like, I didn't see as many of those teachers. And, I know it's an ed tech conference and obviously the people who have access to technology are going to be more likely to share. But if you're somebody who's figured out how to use 2 desktops that are a little bit slow and to work with that in your classroom, please share your voice. If you're somebody who has, gone through this struggle of, I didn't have any technology and I wrote a grant and now I have 4 Chromebooks and this is what this looks like and let me help you to do this too, please come and share your voice. Like, it is so important that everybody is in this conversation, all of our kids, all of our teachers, all of our school leaders, and all of our central office staff. Like, that's how we kind of bring this team together and absolutely share everything that's going on in education and then make change for the better. So please share your story, share your voice, get your kids in there, get them involved, and don't forget to just have fun with it and enjoy the process because it's a really great fun one.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, Brandon, thank you so much for joining me on a Friday night even. I really appreciate your time. You guys have been awesome. I will see both of you very soon. And to anybody who's watching, don't forget to reach out to us if you have questions. Enjoy those resources, and we hope to see all of your proposals put in and come to your sessions next summer. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.